right.
The chimney's coming off, they're getting roofed over because I've had a bird for 2 months.
Good morning, welcome. Thank you for coming today, and it's just an awesome day, and the weather's great, God's blessing, just continually, so just so grateful for the blessings. So first I thought I'd start off just with something a little humorous. Yeah. Anyways, every day there's a national something, you know, there's a national this or that, multiple nationals. So I looked up what the days was. So obviously there's a whole bunch. I pulled a few out that I thought were unique and they stand out. So let me turn this on. There we go. August 10th, National Day of Dean Day. So if your name's Dean, this is your day. World Lion Day, Spoil Your Dog Day. So now the pet owners, dog owners here, go home and spoil your dog. Herbert Hoover Day, Update Your Bio Day. How important is that? National S'mores Day. That one, yeah, we can't have it.
Too hot. Well, it is a little cooler, so I guess we could do that.
Yeah. National Connecticut Day. So if you live in Connecticut, or know somebody does, send them a text and remind them to celebrate. And International Biodiesel Day. So, yeah. It's probably an alternate diesel fuel.
Yeah.
Eco-friendly and all that, bio, you know.
Biodiesel is made from like soybeans and stuff like that.
Okay.
Oh, so you drive around smelling like a French fry.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah, I can still smell it pretty nasty.
But only if you're in Europe.
Yeah.
That's a European thing.
Yeah, your exhaust smells like McDonald's fries.
Yeah.
So anyways, I thought that was good. I get an email every day that tells me all these nationals. I thought I'd share this with you.
And that's a short list, right?
That's a short list, yeah. There's some that were, you know, questionable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to include them on this list. All right, so I'd like to share today about generosity and choosing a life of overflow. You know, this will be easy for me to talk about, you know, because obviously God's generous, but for me personally, it's going to be a little rough because I'm on issue disclaimer that I am going to share a few times that I've been generous, but I'm not up here bragging. I'm not putting myself in the spotlight. That's not the reason why I'm sharing. It's because of what God's done in my heart to be generous. And it's bragging about God. So it's not about me. I just want to clarify that up front. You know, and as I was growing up, I'd watch other people in their acts of generosity, and nobody here in this body, this is as I was growing up, and if they didn't get the recognition they felt they deserved, they were not happy, and they expressed their views. I heard them say that, and I took that as a lesson that I didn't want to be like that. I don't like being in the spotlight. I don't mind helping people, but I don't need the being recognized for it. I just like to stay in the background, let them get what they need and deserve, and I can just move on. But through the years of being generous, it's given me energy to do more. When I see the outcome of people, what they benefited from, even if it's a small part, and I may not know a lot, but I can still contribute something as a whole when other people are involved too. So it's not just about me being a solo act in my generosity. At times it has been, but there's other times it's a group effort, depending upon what is needed. And of course, what the other people can bring in as well. So some other names or words for generosity is charitable, considerate, helpful, honest, hospitable, thoughtful, and willing. And even just yesterday, I had an act of generosity extended to me, which threw me off, but it was really nice. I went over right near where I live, walking distance. I got my hair cut. And so I go in, and she's cutting my hair, we're talking. I go to pay, and I didn't have enough money on me. I knew I had a $20 bill in my wallet. I had my wallet with me. It's one of those newer ones that has the expanding material size. It's RFD protected one. Has a clip on the front. I mean, this clip is really strong. So what happened was it fell off. I had 5 singles, so I gave that to her. I said, can I come back on Monday, 3:30? Yes, you can. And so I went home and I found that $20 bill in my book bag where I keep my wallet as I travel to and from work. So tomorrow, 3:30, I'm going to make sure to go over there and give her the rest of her money. So I appreciate generosity, and part of that occurred only because I built up a relationship with her. There was trust.
That's right.
You know, so that made the difference. Now, I had change in her pocket. I mean, I could borrow from it, and that really encouraged me. So that type of generosity towards me encourages me to do more for other people as well. And it was just a blessing knowing that I could walk out there and, you know, granted, my hair's going to grow back. I'm going to be back there again, but, you know, I'd be paying her at some point for it. So.
It looks nice.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, I was getting a little bit out of sorts. And it looked like I had bangs and not into that. So. Thank you, Larry. I'd like to share a passage about the widow's offering in Mark 12:41-44. And here it says that Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins worth only a few cents. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on." And isn't that amazing that her generosity wasn't the amount she gave, but it was the sacrifice she made. And that's what generosity is. It's a sacrifice. What does it mean to the person receiving it? It's not about the quantity, but it's about the quality. Good intentions don't get the job done. You ever had somebody say, "I'll help you," and don't follow through? You're counting on them. I mean, I'm sure I'm guilty of that myself. A long time ago, I try to watch that. If I can't do something for somebody, I won't commit myself. It takes action. Words won't do it. So, being generous means to follow through. And if you can't, communicate. I work in marketing. Communication is just so vital, so important. People want information. And if you don't give them enough, they're not happy. And of course, if you give the wrong information, they're not happy either. And we're all familiar with the Good Samaritan in Luke 10:25-37, where the priest and Levite walk by, but it's a Samaritan who helps the man's needs to recover. And his generosity went beyond the social and cultural barriers, showing the kind of selfless love that Jesus wants us to practice. He took time. He gave expense out of his own pocket, his own labor, and to help the man who had a need. Others walked past him and just didn't care. And here's a quote from Gandhi. "Generosity consists not in the sum given, but in the manner in which it is bestowed." And that is so true. I mean, again, it's not the sum, but it's the manner. How is it coming from the heart? And do you really care? You're going to follow through. What are your intentions? Is it going to be beneficial? Jeremy shared what a testimony was. It was 3 parts. The person giving the testimony, person receiving, and the testimony. Well, in generosity, you have 3 parts. Again, it's the person giving and the receiving, but then the generosity is the 3rd part. And that's how generosity works. And so I'd like to share with you a story here, an actual story that this was from back in June 2017. And it had happened in Scottsburg, Indiana, at a McDonald's. McDonald's cashier Hunter Hostetler is on the lookout for a customer who started a 167 drive-thru paid-forward chain at the restaurant. Hostetler, 19, was working the drive-thru on Sunday night when, around 8:30, the mystery woman drove up to the pickup window for approximately $6 food order. When the woman, whom Hostetler described as being in her early 60s, saw the man with 4 kids in the car behind her, she told Hostetler she'd pay for his $36 food order too. She paid it in full and told me to tell Dad Happy Father's Day. When Hostetler told the man that his 4 Happy Meals and other food were paid for, he offered to pay for the next 2 cars behind him. It just snowballed from there until we closed, Hostetler said. When Hostetler closed the drive-thru at midnight, the total number of cars who joined the paid-for chain was up to 167. It was very heartwarming, Hostetler said. The last customer came through, even asked if there was another car, and I said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, you're the last customer for the night, we're closing." So how would you feel? You'd want to keep it going for the last person. I was just shocked. Well, Abby Smith, 22, and her boyfriend made the last-minute decision to go to McDonald's around 11:30 on Sunday and were shocked to find themselves as car number 161 in the chain. She said, "I was just shocked because of the large number. I didn't even think about it. I was just said, go ahead and take what the previous person put down. Go ahead and take it from us too." She added, "This made me feel like it was just a big family congregation. It was such a great feeling." And that's what generosity does. It's a snowball effect. It pays it forward. Hostetler recalled that customers like Smith paid little attention to whether or not the meal they were paying for was 3 or 4 times the cost of what they had ordered for themselves. For customers who could not afford to pay the difference, Hostetler and his colleague Jessica donated money out of their own pockets to help. So can you imagine not having enough money to pay for the person behind? And the employees, they're spurring them on. They're wanting to see it keep going. There's so much negativity in the world, Hostetler said. Something like this just doesn't happen every day. And it doesn't. But, it's great to see that. And that's where, again, the person giving, receiving, and the act. And there's always that ripple effect. And in this case, it was. From one card to the next, it just kept moving back. The impact of generosity reverberates far beyond the initial act of giving. It creates a ripple effect, touching countless lives in ways we may never fully comprehend. It inspires others to emulate the same kindness, which this did, creating a chain reaction of goodwill and compassion, which this did. Imagine the sheer magnitude of positive change that could be achieved if every individual embraced generosity as a core value, transforming our communities and the world at large. Let us strive to be instruments of this transformation, spreading the radiant light of generosity where we go. So it doesn't take much. Just that first person decided to pay for the second, and then the second did it for the next 2, and it just snowballed from there. The smallest act of kindness is worth more than the grandest intention, by Oscar Wilde. Generosity may not involve money or anything physical. Have you ever thought about just listening? Maybe somebody needs an ear. And there's times that you might need to vent about something, talk to people. I mean, just sitting back and listening, it doesn't have to take something tangible. People will know you care by just being there. So that right there is an act of generosity. And I'll share one story here that happened to me here a few months back. I was leaving the church and just headed down 585 past the barn and got up to Guyers Chapel. So I'm getting up to speed, hitting about 55, and just as I crest that hill over there at Guyers Chapel, there's 2 totes in the middle of the road. And I come to a screeching halt. I pulled over into this, there was a barn with a small gravel area there. I pulled into that real quick, kind of skidded. I got out, and somebody had lost their load. There was loose spray paint cans. It had been there for I don't know how long, because there was some spray paint. The cans were splattered, and there was paint in the middle of the road. And so there was a safety vest, a small hatchet, and just a bunch of stuff. So I knew people would hit that and damage the cars, because I knew I wouldn't want to hit it. So I got out, and I got one tub real quick. I'd thrown the cans in. One of the cans, I broke the nozzle and it was spraying inside the tub, but I didn't care because I just wanted to get it out of the way, you know. I got a little blue on me, but it didn't matter on my hand. So I get the tub picked up and I get it over there. I'm just starting to head to the second tub and the van is coming up. So I could see him, so I motioned to slow down and go around. Fortunately, nobody was coming the other direction. And then I got that second tub up and put it over. I just stacked it over in that gravel area and left it go. Somebody must have picked it up. It was gone next time I traveled through that area. Past it, I don't recall when, but you know, it was gone. So, you know, that is, I would appreciate someone doing that for me, but I didn't. I decided, you know, I'm not going to wait until let somebody else do it. I just knew that I wouldn't want my car to be hitting that stuff. So I just got out and took care of it. So another act of generosity that I do a lot is when I go to stores, and I intentionally park a little further away because for handicapped people, they provide spaces, but there's never enough, and they fill up quick. And I figure I can walk. So, you know, it's something that no one knows about, but, you know, that makes me feel good. Because I want to see people, you know, that have health issues, that can't walk far. You know, granted, they may not be able to park right where they can, but as close as they can, that helps. So I do that. I think about the people in that. And I don't mind. I can use the exercise. And this is an adage that really, I think, does a lot with life in general. Sow a thought, reap an act. Sow an act, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, and reap a destiny. And I think that applies really with a lot of things in life. I felt really good with generosity, because when you sow it, you sow the thought of generosity, it goes into the act. And the act becomes a habit. The habit becomes your character. It's second nature. You don't have to think about it. Just do it. And then your character, when you're doing it constantly, consistently, that's your destiny. I mean, that's how God works. Proverbs 19:17, whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they've done. So it's a blessing to be able to give. You know, we're so blessed to have what we have, and there are people out there who are really struggling. Proverbs 22:9, the generous will themselves be blessed, for they share their food with the poor. So it's about giving back of what we have. And I'm reminded of a song. This was, some of you might know, it's Phil Collins. He was a group of Genesis. It's called Another Day in Paradise. And he wrote about this song. This was actually written as an experience that he went through, he witnessed, and he turned it into a song. It's about homeless and poverty. And I would encourage you, if you can, look it up and watch the video. It does give statistics. This was back in '89. But it shows actual people on the streets, homeless, and it gives statistics of what homelessness was back then. But the beginning of the lyrics here, it says, she calls out to the man on the street, sir, can you help me? It's cold and I have nowhere to sleep. Is there somewhere you can tell me? He walks on, doesn't look back, he pretends he can't hear her. Starts to whistle as he crosses the street, seems embarrassed to be there. And that spoke to me. I mean, and yet it touched him enough to break this into a song. I mean, it really does touch upon generosity. I mean, the homeless plight. And if you think about, in terms of paradise, right now, granted, I'm not the wealthiest, I'm not, you know, I have a lot, but for me, what God's given me, this is my paradise. I'm in paradise. We all of us, wherever we're at, we're in paradise. There are people, like in that video, the homeless, they're not, that's not paradise for them. So I would encourage you to be very grateful for the paradise you're in. It could be a lot worse, that is for sure. And I know it could be for me, and that applies to all of us. It's not how much we give, but how much we put into giving. That's from Mother Teresa. And Another thing I shared here a while back, I was mowing yards. I like doing that. I was mowing for a coworker. He used to work at Dealers, and he's retired, and they were over in Austria for a month. So I was mowing his yard. He's the second house from corner. There's a neighbor, then Steve is his name, and then a third person. So he's right there in the middle. So I'm mowing their yard. The one in the corner was getting some landscaping done in their backyard. And so the guy at the third house walked through the backyard, went over, was talking to him, whatever. As he come back through, he stopped me and said, would you be interested in mowing his yard? What would I charge you? So let me finish this one and I'll think about it. So I go over after I got done, mowed his yard. I gave him a price. He was fine, used his equipment. He told me that when his grandchildren get sick, he seems to catch it pretty quick. He was feeling better, but he wasn't fully up to par to mow the garden. So I said, sure. I mean, I had time. I was off work that day. It was on a Tuesday, if I recall. And so I mowed it. It turned out to be a great day. I ended up mowing a third yard. You know, and when I left that day from doing all 3 yards, I was energized. I felt so good. And I was flexible. I had plans to go out to eat for lunch. You know, I was wanting to go somewhere for lunch, but you know what? I could go anytime. Somebody had a need, and I wanted to fill it in that moment. And that made me feel better than going out to eat. I mean, granted, I would have had physical, good feeling in my stomach, but it wouldn't last. Where this lasts even longer.
That's right.
So I want to share a quick story here from Guidepost in this one of the recent issues. This is told by Ellie. She's the third party that witnesses between two people in act of generosity. And the title is Where I Found God Today. And the scripture they use is Hebrews 13:16. Do not forget to do good and to share with others, for with such sacrifices God is pleased. And so Ellie wrote, it was the usual Saturday frenzy at the grocery store. Heads down, everyone hustled by, strangers in a silent ballet. But last week, something drew my attention as I neared the dairy coolers. A frail hand etched with a map of blue veins strained to reach the top shelf. An elderly woman was struggling to lift a gallon of milk. Suddenly, a lanky teen, earbuds dangling, showed up beside her. With a basketball player's grip, he snagged the milk and set it in a basket. Her eyes crinkled in gratitude. Thank you, young man, she rasped, her voice thick with emotion. She reached into a pocket and offered the boy a crumpled dollar bill, but he flashed a grin, the kind that reached his eyes, and shook his head. We all need a little help sometimes, he said. He took her small hand in his and gave it a gentle squeeze. Warmth spread through me as I witnessed this exchange. I saw God work in that simple act of reaching for a carton of milk. The teenage boy didn't hesitate to help. His kindness reflected God's caring. The woman's gratitude showed the ripple effect of such a small gesture. There in that crowded dairy aisle, amid the hustle and bustle, God reminded me of the power of compassion and the importance of seeing the divine in everyday acts of those around us. So what will you find? The next time you go to the grocery store or another busy place, be alert for people you might help in little ways. Ask God to lead you in finding opportunity to show His love to others. And that's what generosity is. It's showing God's love. Finding those moments, letting Him lead and guide you, hearing His voice in that moment. Because there's times that we may not be aware and we're focused on our task at hand, but God can intervene. You put that thought right in there and say, do this, and that's a good thing. We need that. Matthew 6:1-4. Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others, to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by others. Truly I tell you, for they receive their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. This isn't about bragging rights, going out there and saying, I did this, I did that. You know, it's honoring God, you know, being faithful. That's what counts the most. And we don't want to flaunt. We're not here grandstanding. Like I said earlier, you know, I saw people in my life grandstanding, they weren't happy. But just be grateful and walk away from that moment knowing that God placed you there for a reason and purpose. 2 Corinthians 8:2-5. In the midst of a very severe trial, their overflowing joy and extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. For I testify that they gave as much as they were able, and even beyond their ability. Entirely on their own, they urgently pleaded with us for the privilege of sharing in the service of the Lord's people. And they exceeded our expectations. They gave themselves first of all to the Lord, and then by the will of God also to us. So it's following God first and foremost. When we follow Him, He will supply. And I did find out that, you know, 2 Corinthians 8 and 9 are strictly talk about generosity. That's the bulk of the topic. So if you really want to know more, those are the two chapters we want to reflect on about generosity.
Jeff, can I say something?
Yeah.
Just sitting here in the midst of a very severe trial. Their overflowing joy, number one, in the midst of a very severe trial.
Right.
Their joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. In the midst of their circumstances, they used what they had to bless, first of all, the Lord, and then to bless others. That just really, how many of us can say, in times of severe trial and poverty, that we're overflowed with joy and giving all that we can and are able to others. That's just amazing.
It is, yeah. For that time, I mean, the people walked a lot closer to the Lord. Not saying we don't. I'm not trying to judge or criticize here, but, you know, that was their lifestyle. I mean, that was a lifestyle. And they definitely had a lot less than we do. I mean, the amenities, you think about all that. I mean, that would be a challenge. I mean, for us to be able to live in their time, that's like they lived in our time, you know, so that would be something. Now, back, was it last month or something? We did this baby bottle. Lois brought that in. I took this picture because when Jeremy was doing his message that day, God was speaking to me about this bottle. And I'm trying to focus on his message, but he's talking to me about this bottle too. It's like, so I'm wanting to collect the thoughts. And I wanted to do it, but I did get a chance to, was I wanted to measure how much liquid this holds. It doesn't really hold a lot. It doesn't say, obviously, but when you think about what we did with that, it doesn't hold a lot, but the money that we put in gave a lot. So when even though our contribution in size was small, the scope of it, where it reached to, was a lot more grand. And that's what God does. He takes the small things and enlarges them, provides even greater than what we can do in our own power. And, you know, like another area that I enjoyed doing a long time ago, some of you might remember, Works of Service for Becky and Dave Ryan. Yeah. I helped a little bit with that. Mostly I took pictures. I mean, as the process worked, I would put up ramps. And I'd help now and then with a piece of wood, put holes on, or go. I'd be a gopher, and I didn't mind that at all. But I got so much joy and energy from that, seeing what a ramp did for a person. Just the difference it made in getting in and out of their homes. You know, I hope that someday, and I won't get to that point, but who knows, I might, that if I get a ramp, you know, people, you know, come in and do that for me. But just taking the pictures, I mean, it didn't do a lot, but yet the physical presence made a difference. And I was grateful to be there. We look forward to doing that and seeing how much change in their face. just
Yes.
from the before and after. I mean,
Yes.
can you imagine making somebody's life easier with just a few pieces of wood and, you know? So it was delightful, it really was for me. It's a little dark, it says, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And that's what it's all about, is making a life by what we give. It's not keeping, it's giving away. I recently helped my coworker and her husband move. They lived up at the north end, and they moved over to Orville, needed help, you know. So I went out twice. I spent 6 hours on one day and a few hours another time. But she made the comment she was going to pay me. I said, I don't want money. I said, for a change, I want to do something for friendship. It wasn't about the money. Yeah, could I use it? Sure. But, you know, that wasn't important. I wanted them to know I wanted to be there, and I wanted to be generous. Part of generosity is not also getting something in return. You know, you can say no, which I did. They were grateful. I said, you know what? Pay it forward. Find somebody that can use it. That was my request. You know, I shared physical generosity. They wanted to share monetary. So I just said, pay that forward to somebody who could really need it and use it. And even though I have shared a few times with my generosity, I know there's been numerous times I've messed up. I've missed opportunities, and I'll share one because I want you to know I'm not perfect. I mean, I know you already know that, but I need to clarify it. You know, I'm far from it. But it was a few months ago, I was at a store, and I was like maybe 2 or 3 people ahead of me, and one guy was checking out. He didn't have quite enough money. And he needed what they had, but he didn't have enough, and I let him walk out the store. I felt bad. You know, I ask God for opportunities, and then I stand there and don't do anything. I think we've all experienced that to some extent, and I still remember his frustration. I heard his voice, you know, and I could have stepped up and made a difference in that moment, but I just let it go, and it bothers me. It really does. And so I ask for forgiveness, and I just want more opportunities to be able to share in a moment that help with that need. Ephesians 1:7-8. In him we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins in God's accordance with the riches of God's grace that he lavished on us with all wisdom and understanding. Up to this point, I've been talking about generosity between people, you know, between us. But now I want to talk a little bit about God's generosity towards us. These next few slides will be about God. And if you think about it, I looked at the word lavished. I mean, that word stood out to me down there, lavished. That is such generosity to be lavished on. And the goodness of his God. Even though with the forgiveness of our sins and the grace that he lavished on us. It's just beyond comprehension. But I'm undeserving, but at the same time, I'm grateful. Second Corinthians 9:8. And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. So that in the acts of generosity, you will have what you need. There's no doubt about it. And 2 Corinthians 9:11, you will be enriched in every way, so that you can be generous on every occasion, and through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. And that's what it's about. It's giving thanksgiving back to God. He is so bountiful in his generosity that it comes back to him. the cross, this is the greatest gift of generosity. I mean, and I know the cross and Christ's crucifixion is love, but it's also generosity. And John 3:16 says it all. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. That was paid in full. That is total generosity. We owe a debt of gratitude we can't pay. And so grateful that the generosity of a God like that bestowed that upon me. I know I fall short every day, yet I'm still in his grace and his mercy. So, some things to ponder here, a couple of questions. We are honoring God when we give generously to others who have a need that is greater than they can fulfill for themselves. When helping others, what are your motives? Are we doing it for, like I said earlier, for ourselves and being the spotlight? Are we just giving and letting God, get the glory? It's not about us getting the glory. So, that's something. Who in your life has been a generous giver, even if it's been the smallest amount, but made the biggest impact on you? So think about that. There's numerous people, might be one or two, but think about the people that for myself, I think of my ex-father-in-law. After at a young age, he cared, and I just didn't see it. And he would approach me, with concerns, and I just shrugged it off. I was immature, naive, and it took a long time. And looking back on it, I could see where his heart was. He cared, and I regret not listening to him a lot sooner. He had a lot of wisdom, and but even that, it's not necessarily again the physical things we do that's generous. It could be somebody says something. I had a story and I couldn't find it, but a friend said to somebody, "Can you be saved and still have a wasted life?" I mean, is that possible? What are your thoughts? That's pretty deep. And it ended up, his friend asked the question, the guy that had been asked the question, he turned his life around. He became a missionary. Just totally forgot. It just was something. But that question really stuck with me, and especially in the area of generosity. But overall, can we be saved and still be lost? So. All right, so Kathy's going to come up and share something. Now, bear with me, there's a small act of generosity in this, okay? Yeah. So, not yet. I've got to start the story. I'll start. There's 3 parts. I'll start. Kathy will come up, then I will finish. So, we'll end on a little humor here, so, okay. So, when did we go see the Chris Tomlin concert? What year?
A few years back.
2 years back, yeah. 4 years, yeah. So we went up to the Chris Tomlin concert. I rode with Kathy, and I remember Dave was riding shotgun up there. There were a few others in her vehicle. Ron drove too, and I don't know if there was another car. But anyways.
Becky rode in the rumble seat.
Okay. Yeah. So we get up there. So we're going up, and just to have conversation, Kathy asked everybody, what was the first concert you went to? So we shared our concerts, and when Kathy shared hers, I thought, okay, this is a keeper. I'm going to be wanting to use this sometime, and now's the time to use it. I had a previous message I thought I could work into, but it didn't. So I'm going to ask her to come up and share her part, what her concert going, okay? Now, when you come up, 2 questions I want to think about. What year was this, and how old were you? To kind of give us a time frame when it happened. So, yeah, if you want to come up and share that.
York State, and Buffalo, they would have a all summer concert thing at the stadium. So these were huge concerts. This was at the football stadium. And it started at noon and it ended at midnight. And believe it or not, those tickets would cost us $12. We would see like 10 bands.
Wow.
I saw the Rolling Stones, I saw Canned Heat, I saw, Fleetwood Mac was the headliner. And so, all these people, I mean, I probably went with a group of 6 maybe. And we had like maybe 4 guys and 2 girls. And so, the guys just picked up the girls and put them on their shoulders so they could see better. And, well, we ran out of guys. So, so I just walked up to this really tall guy and I just said, "Excuse me, but would you mind lifting me up on your shoulders?" And he looked at me and he said, "No, come on." So he just picked me up, put me on your shoulder. And so we could really see, because we were in a crowd, you know how it's kind of flat, you know? I mean, there was people in the stadium seat, but we were like, maybe I am as close to the stage as I am to Keith. And I wanted to see over the crowd of people. So, it was awesome.
How did you do that?
No, it's good. Thank you for sharing. So like I said, that was, when I heard that story, I said, I gotta remember that one. It's just so good. So anyways, getting back to the concert, and this is the highlight, God's humor too. I mean, that was a small act of generosity. It was, She asked, there was 2 people involved, and the act of putting shoulders.
Right.
So we get to the concert, and they had folding chairs, and we were like the 3rd row back, very good seating position. And I think Kathy was about dead center. I don't know how many chairs were in the whole row. She was about in the center, and I was to her right. And so we sat down and waited. We were there about, 15 minutes, half hour, something like that. So Chris Tomlin comes out and gets started, and he wants everybody to stand. Well, we do. The guy in front of Kathy is like 6'2", 6'3", and he's super tall, just way up there. So I leaned into her and said, "Do you want to switch seats?" And she said, "No, that's okay." I said, "Well, then do you want me to put you on my shoulders?" So I had just the timing, the humor, just God's humor with that. But I appreciate Kathy sharing that coming up, and it was great, and I just had fun with that one. And so, and I'm not here advocating going out and asking strangers to get on their shoulders. Okay, don't do that. I mean, now if you're married and you want to do that at home, you go for it. More power to you. I mean, but just be careful. No hospital trips. Okay. And then I do have a handout. I would like to see everybody take. This is from Wycliffe Bible Study. It's about generosity. It's a 7-day dare to live generously, making the most of every day by being radically generous with your heart, time, talent, treasure, words, and community, and legacy. So there is a few pages. There's each day. The print's kind of small, but there are 7 days. Take one and just try it. Yeah, we'll put it back there at the table or on the pew as you leave, and pick up a copy. And if you want to take a couple extra for somebody else, please do. Thank you. So
That's an act of generosity right there.
yeah, thank you for that act of generosity. Yeah.
I meant yours. That's a lot of printing there.
Oh, it wasn't nothing. No. It was already done, so I just told it around. So it was good. If you got your worship team, if you want to come up. So in closing, then. Yep.
Being on the top of generosity, being on the receiving end
Yeah.
is a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, without, or anniversary, the month of that. And we were ready to leave when the waitress came up and gave me food.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And there was a gentleman who saw the house, Vietnam vet,
they went out to eat, and the gentleman paid for their meal.
It was our anniversary.
It was their anniversary, and because he was a vet also, he paid for their meal. And like Roy said, being on the receiving end of generosity, that is
Right.
just, it's a nice surprise too. It can be planned or it can be unplanned. And just, that was totally unplanned, and you get to experience that. That's a memory that's created, and you'll remember it a long time as well. Hebrews 10:24 says, "And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, by living out generosity and sharing stories of God, of how God has blessed us through giving. We can help create a ripple effect of generosity in our families, churches, and communities. Generosity is a fundamental part of living out the faith, and practicing it in our daily lives is the key to experiencing the full blessing and joy of a life devoted to Christ. I am limited as to how much I can give and the ways I can give, but God is unlimited. I have only so much time, so much energy, so many resources. I mean, I don't have the ability to do everything, all these jobs or whatever, but if I can do something, I will. But when it comes to God, He's unlimited. And so I'm grateful for an unlimited God, because I know I'm limited. At least, especially the older I'm getting, feel like I'm getting more limited. But, so anyways, we're going to have altar call here, worship time. If you feel that you want to be more generous, to raise the bar, come up and ask God. Have somebody pray with you. But also, on the other hand, if you don't feel that God's been generous enough, there are people out there that have issues with God because they feel He withholds from them, which He isn't. But they need to come to Him and acknowledge it. So if you feel you've been shorted by God possibly in His generosity, I mean, He's not shorting anybody. That's not His nature. Come up and pray for, release from that and healing, because that's in your mind and in your heart. We got to get beyond those issues. So thank you.
It's interesting. I told Jeff, he told me that generosity was what we were talking about. I said, well, I didn't get a song that was necessarily that way, but that last story, we're doing a Chris Tomlin song, so.